My phone vibrated while the priest was still speaking over my father's coffin. Not a message. A call. Her name lit the screen. "Don't forget," she said, her voice sharp and impatient. "If you want to join Thanksgiving, come wash the dishes." A pause. Then she hung up. I stood there in black, staring at polished wood and lilies that smelled like artificial grief. My father had been lowered into the ground 30 minutes ago. Soil still clung to my shoes. Wash the dishes. I almost smiled. Hours earlier, at the funeral reception, she had held my hand in front of everyone. My wife, my partner of 23 years. Her eyes had glistened perfectly. She pressed her cheek to mine and whispered, "You're not alone." Her perfume mixed with the scent of fresh flowers and damp earth. I remember thinking how convincing she was, how gentle, how careful. She had even cried when the lawyer mentioned the inheritance. Cried harder than I did. Now my daughter-in-law echoed the same tone over the phone, condescending, dismissive. They thought I was broken, a grieving old man clinging to family for warmth. They didn't know grief had sharpened me, and they certainly didn't know what my father had told me 2 nights before he died. It began at the hospital. Machines hummed. My father's breathing rattled like loose change in a jar. "Don't trust her," he whispered. I thought he meant the nurse. He didn't. He meant my wife. "She met with your cousin. Papers, transfers, be careful." I dismissed it at first. Morphine fantasies, old age paranoia. But then I remembered the way she had insisted on handling all the financial stress while I stayed by his bedside. The way she asked too many questions about property titles. The way she'd offered to simplify the will discussion. At the funeral, she clung to me too tightly. When the lawyer mentioned the villa in Switzerland, my father's final, private investment, her fingers dug into my sleeve. A villa I hadn't even known existed. She squeezed my arm and whispered, "We'll figure it out together." "We," that word echoed. Later that night, after the Thanksgiving insult from my daughter-in-law, I checked the shared email account we rarely used. There were drafts, unsent but saved, correspondence with a man named Adrian, my former business partner, the one I had quietly removed years ago for mismanagement. Her tone with him was not marital. It was strategic. "Once the transfer is finalized, we can liquidate." Liquidate. Not we as husband and wife. We as conspirators. I didn't feel rage. I felt cold. Like stepping into snow barefoot and realizing you won't scream. I didn't confront her. Not yet. I made tea the next morning. Asked how she slept. She kissed my cheek. I studied her eyes the way I used to study balance sheets, looking for inconsistencies. Patterns emerged quickly. She began taking calls outside, deleting browser history, mentioning my cousin casually, too casually. So I hired someone. Not a thug. Not a detective from television. A forensic accountant. Quiet, precise. He traced small transfers from my father's dormant account to a holding company. A holding company linked to Adrian. The signature authorization was digital. Approved through a secondary email. My wife's. But it got better. She had convinced my father, weeks before his death, to grant her temporary power of attorney in case of emergency. He must have signed. He trusted her. Or perhaps he was too tired to argue. I kept smiling through dinners, even when my daughter-in-law called again, mocking my moodiness. "Are you sulking?" she asked. "No," I said softly. "I'm planning." She laughed, thinking it was a joke. Meanwhile, I requested certified copies of every document, quietly contacted the bank's fraud department, requested transaction timestamps. Then I did something she didn't expect. I accelerated the Swiss inheritance process. The villa. She thought it was an asset to steal. It was bait. The report arrived on a Thursday. Clear, undeniable. My wife and Adrian had attempted to transfer the Swiss property into a shell corporation 2 days after my father's funeral. 2 days, while she was still wearing black. The power of attorney had expired at death, meaning the transfer attempt was illegal, fraudulent, criminal. I printed the documents, placed them neatly in a folder. That evening, she sat across from me at the dining table, scrolling through her phone. "I spoke to the Swiss attorney today," I said calmly. Her head lifted slightly. "Oh?" "They flagged the transaction." Silence. I slid the folder across the table. She didn't open it immediately. When she did, Her face changed in stages. Confusion, recognition, fear. "You don't understand," she began. "I understand perfectly." Her lips trembled. Adrian said it would work. She started crying then. Real tears this time, not funeral tears. "I was doing this for us." "No," I replied. "You were doing this for you." I didn't raise my voice. I didn't need to. She thought exposure was the worst of it. It wasn't. "I already reported the attempted fraud," I said. Her crying stopped. The bank recorded everything. Digital signatures, IP addresses, calls. Her breathing grew shallow. "You wouldn't—" I did. Adrian had been arrested that afternoon. International fraud carries weight when cross-border assets are involved. She stared at me like I was someone else. Maybe I was. "You set me up." "No," I corrected. "You walked into a trap you built." I had informed the Swiss attorney weeks earlier that any transfer attempt without my physical presence should be flagged and documented. I knew greed moves faster than patience. I let her believe she was clever. She whispered my name like it could save her. It couldn't. Within days, charges were filed: conspiracy, attempted grand larceny, financial fraud. My daughter-in-law called 71 times. The day photos of the villa appeared online. Marble floors, alpine views, glass walls overlooking snow. I didn't answer. I sent one message: "Enjoy Thanksgiving." The house is quiet now. No perfume, no false sympathy, just clean air. My father once told me, "Money doesn't reveal character. It exposes it." He was right. At the funeral, she held me as if I were fragile. She didn't realize I was listening. Watching, calculating. Prison will be loud for her. Cold, unforgiving. I won't visit. I signed the final divorce papers this morning from the balcony of the Swiss villa. Snow fell softly over the mountains. Beautiful, indifferent. My phone hasn't rung in hours. I think they've finally understood. I lost a father, but I gained clarity. And clarity is worth more than inheritance. Some betrayals break you, others sharpen you. She thought I was grieving. She was right, just not for the reasons she imagined.